Welcome back to another episode of Stillwater. I'm Larry,
I'm Josh.
and today's topic is parenting.
Now, earlier today, I've been thinking about it for a couple of days, and I was talking about how I was brought up different from my peers. I can't remember exactly who I was talking to. I think I was talking to some random lady at work.
Okay.
And she was like 20. She was in her 20s.
Yo.
She was like a fresh parent. You know, she was bragging about her child and everything of the sort.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't help but to think okay, you might be a good parent and everything, but the way she was talking and everything of the sort beforehand, she was on the phone, loud, She was like, hold on 1 second, I'm about to do this real quick, folks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, slang, okay. Well, I feel like that's what's going to carry over to
rub
the child.
off on your child.
Yeah, certain things. And I couldn't help myself but to think about, okay, my parents are older.
Mm-hmm.
There were certain things and certain times during which I could really see how older parents really affect the development of a child. And parenthood is one of them things where it's kind of understated. People really dwell on the circumstances. Like, okay, this kid went to this school and was in this neighborhood, and that's why this kid ended up doing. No, it starts with the parenting.
For sure.
And it's kind of like one of those things where I realize now that I have older parents. So, bro, blasting Marvin Gaye, walking down the street, pick up your feet, man. Stop playing with me, boy.
And then when you're walking down the street with a young lady, you gotta make sure you walk on
just
right
it's certain things. Yeah, just things you pick up. Don't forget taking your hat off, your shoes off. Hit the rug.
For sure.
I got slapped one good time, and that was it for me on my eye. Let me pop these shoes off real quick. Let me stop playing.
For sure. For me in particular, having older parents definitely did help in my development as a child, because them being more experienced and my mom having more than one child kind of led her to know what's right and wrong and how to handle certain scenarios. She kind of, I guess you could say, learned from her other experiences with her children, and it kind of bettered her to make me into the person that I am today.
Right.
So that definitely did help as well. Also involving my demeanor. She was never really one for slouching or cursing, at least not within her presence.
Of course.
Cleaning on the weekends, Sunday morning, like you said, the music in the morning.
Of course.
You already knew what time it was. Also, a lot of younger parents, they don't cook. They don't.
Man.
You don't wake up to breakfast. You don't get the lunch when you come home from school, and you don't get the dinner when you don't your homework.
Yeah, man. I realize a lot of our friends really don't know how to cook.
Yeah, and you can definitely tell by how they were brought up. Even though you may have been struggling, a real parent knows how to make something out of nothing.
Yeah.
And
I feel like that's kind of a duty.
For sure. But again, having older parents kind of made you feel more. You felt more entitled.
I definitely did.
For more to show better performance. Versus having a young parent, since they're not being as experienced as they are, whatever the case may be, you can't really judge them as much anyway, because you gotta start somewhere.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, really though, it's I really don't try to judge anyone's parenting at all. I really try my hardest to be non-biased, especially when it comes to parenting, because you'll never know exactly what lessons a child will actually pick up from the parent. It might be all good things that they pick up. It might be all, okay, I might be loud, I might be ghetto sometimes, I might be cursing and stuff, whatnot. But at the end of the day, you're going to respect me, you're going to respect bosses, you're going to know how to code switch.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like there's a way for you to be a younger parent or an inexperienced parent or a parent who doesn't really want to be there. There's ways for you to do all of that and still instill the basics of, okay, now you have to code switch. You have to know what that is. You have to know how to be aware of what things you're doing and how they might be perceived. Being in public places, I noticed that I have to stand sturdy. It's not a comfort thing, although a lot of the times when I'm with other people who came up differently, everybody sagging and whatnot, and I'm the only dude with a belt and a shirt tucked in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And man, it's kind of interesting to see the difference in just people, especially now that we're grown.
Yeah.
watching our peers develop, bro, I only wonder exactly what the parenting techniques that their parents used were, or if any, or if they were just like, hey, this is a little human being. I'm gonna talk to him like he a dude on the street, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I can agree with that, and it also carries over into like obligations and daily duties as a young adult, and pretending to paying bills and how to talk to people professionally.
Let me breathe on that one, bro.
A lot of people don't know how to pay a phone bill, light bill, pay the rent. They don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to actually get through those moments when they need some, like you said, to code switch and kind of switch it over to speaking or handling things a certain way.
Yeah.
That definitely does. Yeah. Professional development is a big part when it comes down to parenting. Because for the most part, I've been around people where they can't, when they even stated that they can't take their child everywhere.
Like, what do you mean, though?
Like behavioral issues.
Oh, okay.
They don't know how to switch it up when it comes down to being around the right people.
Okay.
And it definitely does play a part because now you don't know what to do. Your child's acting up in the store, and depending on the type of parent you are, you might not hit your child or necessarily discipline your child at that moment because you don't necessarily know how because you were brought up differently.
Right.
And then your child might run rampant through the store, screaming and hollering, kicking and screaming,
right.
And you don't know what to do.
I know one thing is for sure, there's a real fine line between like discipline and straight abuse. One of the I don't want to be rude or say this in a way that might offend anybody, but if you hit your kids in public, like I'm talking about straight. I was on the bus. What was this? I think Monday. Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to school. I got my headphones in. I'm not really trying to pay attention too much. I'm hearing yelling and screaming like somebody yelling at a grown man. Like, You know what I'm saying? She's like, "Hey, little nigga, stop! Hey, bro, I'm gonna smack the taste out your mouth." And she did it. I'm talking about smack that baby with some force behind it. The baby had to been like maybe 3.
Oh my God.
And it brought such rage in me. I'm like, see, what type of parent are you to have to resort to like a burst of violence in public?
Especially at such a young age.
Yeah, come on now.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
That's traumatizing at that age.
I mean, for me in particular, when it came down to, how to discipline your child, I, for one, never really had to go through, being hit or whatever the case may be until I got older. Because you don't necessarily know how to take care of certain things. Regarding, like, some scenarios, or whatever the case may be. Right. But for me in particular, like, my mom, she always used to put me on punishment.
Okay.
Real light things, nothing too crazy. All right, you can't play your game for a week, or you can't play your toys for the rest of the day. Yeah. That's okay with me. It wasn't anything too crazy. Obviously, depending on the offense or how bad I was depended on, the action I was taking. Right. But for the most part, I've heard stories of people getting, hit with switches and, it just really made everything a lot more, intensified when you heard it from other people, which kind of made me not want to be in that position.
Right. Don't act up. And
don't act up and I don't have to worry about that,
Right.
So,
I mean, personally, it was kind of a mixture for me. It was kind of like, okay, certain times I'd get physical, right? Mm-hmm. So I think the worst ever I got was I saved up, or I actually had my parents save up for a toy. And it was like a little ride-along track. I must have been like 5. Mm-hmm. And I still remember this whooping, man. She grabbed the belt and whooped me while I was walking up the stairs. I think I threw the toy like off the banister or something. Mm-hmm. Something real dumb, just for like clout, temporary clout with my little peoples. Mm-hmm. And I got a whooping up the stairs. And in fact, I still got a scar on my thigh from it.
I could believe it.
And it was just like, that was one of the only whoopings I got. Mm-hmm. Only like drastic, actual, punishments that actually carry through. They might say, okay, you do this, I'm finna whoop you. But honestly, most of mine was logic. I got hit with logic a lot. Okay, you cursed at the teacher. This person is supposed to give you education. Right. This person is supposed to help you. Why would somebody help you if you cursing at them? Yeah. Why would somebody work with you when you don't want to work with them? That's dumb. And then I'm sitting there looking stupid. Hurt, feelings is hurt. Parents just told me I'm dumb in a real calm, chill voice. they weren't mad. It's not like their emotions took over them. And I'm like, okay, something got to change, you know? And I feel like that really drives home the fact that punishments don't have to be necessarily bad.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to be something that scars you or something that you have to remember in the sense of like some physical thing or some threat.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I remember when I used to get in trouble, my mom used to make me write down, I will not do this again. I will not do this again.
Classic.
Maybe, like from like the front page to the back page. And after that, you know, your wrist get to hurt and you're like, man, I'm never going to do this again. But I feel like there's a point in a child's life where, like, you being so young, of course, eventually you're going to slip up. You know, there's always going to be a moment. And I do remember there was one time, I believe you were there as well, I was in the presence of my mom's friend.
Oh, yeah. Can't say no name.
And, you know, us being outside, I stepped away.
Right.
And I had to fart. And apparently she heard it.
That was hilarious.
It was a little bit louder. You know, I wasn't trying to, but...
Bro, you had to change your pants almost.
Okay, but anyway. And then she turned around, she looked at me, and she said, Larry, what are you doing? You think your fart smells good or something? You think your stuff smells like roast and you know, a bouquet of roses? I'm like, no, you know, it was just, you know, it was natural, you know, this, that, and the third.
Right.
And she was like, wait till I tell your mother. I'm like, well, you know, my mom, she'll understand. Mm-hmm. But hopefully, you know, she'll leave it alone. Hopefully it doesn't come to that.
Right.
I get upstairs, 10 minutes passes by, and then she says, guess what your son did?
Mm-hmm.
And my mom says,
I remember this now.
She says, oh, what did he do? And she was like, oh my God, your son was so rude and disrespectful. He farted in front of me and he laughed about it like it wasn't nothing. And then my mom said, oh, okay, it really wasn't that big of a deal.
She kind of dismissed it.
Yeah, she kind of dismissed it because she understands that that's a natural thing.
I think we went back to playing toys or something.
Yeah, I went right back to what I was doing. And then she was like, no, but what you gotta understand is this, that, and the third. And she kind of kept on egging my mother on and kind of, you know, influencing her to take action. And then eventually my mother succumbed to it, and my mom decided to slap me in front of you.
It was clean.
I'm telling you, it was the cleanest slap I've ever felt in my life.
I thought I was gonna get one for laughing. I swear.
I was so shook. You know,
went in that bathroom.
I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I wanted to cry or fall out or go to sleep. I didn't know. I didn't know if I was hungry. You know. And I went to the bathroom and I sat in that mirror and I cried my little eyes out.
Yep.
You know. Then eventually my mother said that, Joshua, I think it's time for you to go home.
Yep.
Mary's had enough for one day.
Yep.
I was like, you know what? I'm not even mad at that. You know, my face hurts. I can't look you in the eye anymore.
Just like that.
You know.
I feel like that's a real prime example of how parenting can be influenced. You know, people are people. We're all just people at the end of the day. Even when we get to adults, we're bound to either, you know, make our choices, make mistakes, make positive decisions. I feel like her being influenced was kind of proof of the fact that, okay, I'm a parent. I'm a good parent. I've taught my teacher. I've taught my child what I want and what I expected, even though this doesn't fall high on the, you know, level of offense, obviously, to somebody else. You know what I'm saying? Boom. She was like, okay, I gotta prove to her friend, can't say no names, that at the end of the day, my child is in line and my child will know respect.
Yeah, for sure. And even afterwards, you know, after everything settled down, my mom did have a talk with her, and then she had a talk with me, letting me know that, you know, for the most part, she doesn't want to have this happen again. But you also have to keep in mind that, you know, her being as old as she was, I'm pretty sure she knew what she was doing.
Yeah.
And until that day, I haven't farted in anyone else's presence.
Just like that.
I will admit that must have happened maybe like 10 years ago.
How old were we?
I was like 9.
Oh, wow.
I was like 9. Yeah, it was around the time that me and you had first started getting together.
Yeah.
But regardless, it was still a learning experience. I definitely pay homage to those young parents once again for taking the duty of raising a child.
It's a whole nother human being.
It's a whole nother human being. Like there's moments when I can't even take care of myself, and then you You've literally brung it upon yourself to take care of not only you, but another baby, an infant.
Look, I'm clapping. I'm all for it. I feel like as long as you understand the duties, the principles, and the fact that you have 18 plus years to teach this human being how to be a human, right? I feel like as though not only is it brave, but just make sure, like, how do I say this? Make sure that you're instilling things in your child that you feel like you missed.
Agreed.
If you feel like, okay, everything was only during my childhood, however, I kind of missed learning my ABCs, or I was a slow, kind of just ease that on to your child.
Or even like the presence of being in the child's life.
Yeah. That's big.
People definitely did grow up with toys and having plenty of things to keep them distracted, but for the most part, if you're not there as a parent, if you're not in, spending quality time with the child, then that can also affect your child.
Of course.
But I feel like that's just my general perspective on parenting.
Yeah.
How about you?
Honestly, I feel like I could really talk a lot more, simply because of the fact I feel parenting is such a large, or how do I say, it's a topic that cannot be fully described.
Yeah.
Simply because of the fact there's so many different variables. Of course, where you are when you're in your life, when you actually have a child, and your goals and things of the sort. You shouldn't put your life on hold, but you should at least make your child a priority. I feel like there's a lot of things to it. But yeah, parenting can never be talked about enough. And
sure. We can go on all day about parenting and our experiences, and hopefully you guys as viewers, you guys can relate to a few things,
right?
Maybe a couple things that you may have missed out on,
right?
Or maybe something that your mom or dad made, much more of a key factor in your life to make sure that you knew how this was going to happen and things to expect as you were growing up and developing as a young adult.
In fact, why don't you guys leave a comment or two about some of the things that you feel like were really driven home?
For sure.
Some of the things that you really feel were key and important for you to learn. Something that you might even understate. Something that you don't really think about on a daily basis.
Yeah, for
Anything.
sure. But like you said, make sure you guys go ahead and give us a little bit of feedback in the comment section.
Yes.
Make sure that you guys go ahead and like and subscribe and check out our Facebook group.
Yep. Peace be still.
Peace be still. Make sure you guys go check out our other episodes as well. This will be episode 4.
Yep.
So make sure you guys stay on top of what's going on. Push the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop more videos like this. But until then, I'm Josh.
I'm Larry, and subscribe, please.